Hey guys, Kelade here. As you guys may or may not have heard, Armor's Warriors are going to be getting a buff the day that Mythic comes out. They're going to get an 8% buff to a few of their abilities: Mortal Strike, Execute, Slam, Overpower, and Rend. Now obviously this doesn't translate exactly to an 8% overall damage buff, because there's some stuff like Colossal Smash or Warbreaker does not buff, and your auto attack's not getting buffed, so it's more like a 5 to 7% buff, but it is a buff, and people are, maybe a little bit more interested in that Arms Warrior than they were before. So let's go over the gear guide in regards to Arms Warrior. And one other note I do want to make for all the changes that are going to be happening on the day Mythic comes out, which you guys are probably going to be seeing it by the time you're seeing this video. These changes would have already gone out. Another one that's important for us is Treacherous Covenant effectiveness reduced by 10%. Now obviously this affects every single spec in the game, but I think as far as for the gear that we're going to be getting, it's still going to be good to use for Arms Warriors. If not, it's okay. The gear that has Treacherous Covenant on them are still going to be really good anyways, because the other trait that's on there is good enough, to be honest. So let's get into the gear guide really quickly. So right here, very similar setup as the Fury one, right? The Fury is on this tab right here. Arms is right here. You can check out both of them. You can see how many bosses have the best in slot loot. First things first, I think we should go over the stat rankings this time. When you actually sim the best gear for Arms Warrior and you look at the stat weights, it's looking like haste and crit are basically equivalent. Haste is a couple points more. Versatility and mastery are pretty close too. So you kind of have like two brackets. If something has haste crit, it's really good. If something has versatility and mastery, then it's not so great. And then of course strength is the bottom, similarly to Fury Warrior. As far as for the Azrael traits that you want to be stacking, if you can get 3 Tests of Might, that's the goal. Anything else is just cherry on the top. Now, right now, 3 out of 3 Treacherous Covenant is going to be good. Even when the nerf hits, the 10% nerf, it's still going to be pretty good. And then, if you can't get, those perfect traits like that, you can always fill it up with Strike the Anvil, Crushing Assault, Gathering Storm, Lord of War, and Seismic Wave. Now, one thing that you do not want to do, or it's kind of shitty to do, is if you somehow only get 1 Test of Might trait, just only having 1 of the trait doesn't improve your DPS as much as if you had 2 or 3. Because it's one of those things where when you have Test of Might, your playstyle as an Arms Warrior has to change, right? And the benefit you get for changing that playstyle isn't as seen greatly if you only have 1 of the traits. Now, as far as for the third ring of Azrael traits, Overwhelming Power, similarly to Fury Warrior, is best in slot for single target. Now, it's not as OP as it is for Fury, because it's not the absolute best for AoE2, but it's still pretty good, still pretty up there. And then you want to ideally have other traits filling out, being Gut Ripper, Heed My Call, and Unstable Flame. So whatever you can get on those. And if you had to pick, it will probably be in that order. So in case you guys have any questions and reading this gear list, all right, this is the items that you want. If you can't get the items, if there's something that's filled out on the right side here too, that means they're relatively equivalent. It's okay if you get one or the other. Mainly the weapons. As an Arms Warrior, both weapons in the raid are pretty good, and we'll get to that in a second. So you just want the highest eye level weapon that you can. And of course, this just counts up the number of loot that's, labeled here. So you can see like, oh, Jaina drops 3 items. Maybe if I don't reroll, I reroll on that. So that's kind of for you guys to take a look at. Now let's quickly go over all the gear, right? First, the weapons, Crash of Tides and Dawnbreaker. They're both very, very similar. Like whenever you send these 2 weapons, your DPS difference is going to be very negligible, only a couple of DPS points. Main reason why is Crash of Tides has crit versatility and Dawnbreaker has haste mastery. As we mentioned earlier in the video, haste and crit are their best stats, so they're split between 2 weapons, and verse and mastery are their worst 2 stats, and they're split too. So both weapons have 1 good stat, 1 bad stat, so whatever you can get your hands on, get the highest eye level one and you're good to go. As far as our helmet goes, there's 3 of them here, whatever, great. Only 1 helmet here. Helmet of Tempered Jade has the Test of Might trait on it, so this is going to be your best in slot. As far as for your shoulders, same thing here. Dino Sprocket Spalders has Test of Might on it. That's probably going to be your best in slot, and that's the one you kind of want to go for. Now, of course, you do want, if you somehow are wearing like a 385 and a 400 or a 451 drops, it's still probably going to be a DPS upgrade, but we're talking about like equivalent eye levels if you have the choice of picking whatever one you want, especially on what you want to roll on. Cape, similarly, I think to Fury Warrior, you're going to want the one that has the primary stat increased by 150 if you can get it. Free stats. Not only that, crit haste on it, best in slot, great. So you can see like the gearing is very similar because haste and crit are going to be really good stats for both specs. So Azerite traits aside, you can actually switch between Fury and Arms relatively well with their off pieces because they're both basically going to have crit and haste on them. As far as for chest piece goes, see Wild Chestplate, this is the one with Tessamite, so this is the one that you're going to want. And then as far as for our secondary, I did put a second one here on the list, Breastplate of the Deathbound. This one could do well, especially because it has overwhelming power there in the level 33 trait. Now, of course, we're looking at this in regards to single target DPS. If you wanted AoE DPS, you could use Lord of War and Seismic Wave. Those are going to be the really good traits for AoE. So if your more focus is on either Mythic Plus or you want to switch between Arms and Fury and you want to play Arms for more like the cleave fights, sure, you can go for traits that are more tailored towards Lord of War or Seismic Wave, or if you can get 3 out of 3 in each of those, you'll be AoEing like crazy as Arms. As far as for the wrist is concerned, you have a haste versatility and you have a crit haste. So of course, the crit haste, 2 best stats is going to win out. The gloves, right? Crusade Pulmoners has crit haste, so that's going to win out. And then for your waist, you have one that's crit verse, and then you have one that's crit mastery. Like we mentioned earlier, you know, crit is better than versatility or mastery, and then the whole plate girdle has just a little bit more crit than mastery, whereas the Empress Seer waistguard has more versatility and crit, so that makes the whole plate girdle slightly better. As far as for pants, one choice. Shoes, you can have one choice, so nothing to really see there. For the ring, similarly to why we chose the cloak, Seal of Dazar'alor Empire is going to be one of the ones that you want. If you can get the 150 free primary stat, great. The next 2 rings, you have the Band of Multi-Sided Strikes. It has crit verse, and then you have Lord Admiral Signet. Both of these rings, unfortunately, have your worser stat as the more chunky stat, right? This one has over 300 versatility. This one has, 284 mastery. And because of that, because it has a little bit worse of the worser stat and a little bit more of the better stat, Lord Admiral Signet does seem a little bit higher, but really either one of those rings are going to be fine. And ideally, you're going to want a ring that has a socket, and you probably won't even be using one of these 2 rings. You'll probably use something from like Mythic Plus or PvP or however else you can get rings. Now, as far as your trinket is concerned, it does seem interesting because it seems like you could use Grom's Primal Range and the Ramping Amplitude at the exact same time. Now, I can't test it because I don't have both trinkets, but it does look like it's working like that in Sims. And if it does work out where you can use both trinkets, then both of these active trinkets are actually going to be better than the Ever Chill Anchor. One big reason why is Arms Warriors auto attack slower, so you're stacking up slower. But both of these trinkets are going to help you out a lot. For example, the Ramping Amplitude, it lasts a long time. It basically covers your entire boss of smash with your Tessamite buff. And then Grom's Primal Rage is really good for any strength melee spec in the game that has any downtime in your DPS. So you're going to charge in, you're going to use the Grom's right away, and then when it comes back again, you're going to ideally use it when you don't have Colossus Smash debuff and you don't have Tessamite. During that downtime where you don't have that much rage, you pop this trinket and you get some free DPS where you were just going to auto attack anyway. So this trinket is much better for Arms than it is for Fury because Fury has no downtime, whereas Arms does. So hopefully that helps you guys with your Arms Warrior gearing. I'll put the gear up again right here. You can see all the different names. You can even see the Azerite traits that are being picked. Now, what is also interesting for Arms Warrior this time around is as far as for the 3rd row of talents, you could use Massacre, you could use Rend, you could use Fervor for Battle. Now, right now, Fervor for Battle does sim highest when I actually put on all of these pieces of gear, but when I'm looking at my current gear, Massacre still sims highest. So this might be a talent row where you kind of have to keep simming it whenever you get new gear, seeing which one does better, because it doesn't seem like it's set in stone. I think it does depend on your items. I think especially based on your trinkets too. So definitely check out the 3rd row of talents. You might need to change it based on kind of the gear you have, but they're not that far different. So if you prefer Massacre, if you prefer Rend, if you prefer Fervor Battle, you can definitely pick one of the 3, though Fervor is winning when you have all of the best in slot gear right now. And that's it for this video. And of course, I will be streaming our Mythic progression on my Twitch channel. There's a link down in the description below, but it is just twitch.com/Kelade. And as always, thanks for checking the video, guys. Feel free to subscribe to see more. See ya.